Have you ever noticed how a simple conversation can feel like a full mental exam? A message you need to send, a question you want to ask, a quick reply that should take 10 seconds. But instead, you rehearse it, you rewrite it, you imagine every possible response. You play the conversation in your head like a movie on repeat. And somehow, by the time you finally speak, you are already exhausted. If this feels familiar, this video is not here to judge you. It is here to explain you. Because the people who overprepare for simple conversations are not weak. They are not dramatic. They are not socially broken. They are wired differently. And once you understand the psychology behind it, everything starts to make sense. So let's break it down. This is the psychology of people who overprepare for simple conversations. Have you ever noticed how some people can talk without thinking, while you think so much that talking feels risky? You plan what to say before a phone call. You practice your tone before asking a question. You even rehearse casual conversations that might never happen. Not because you want attention, not because you love overthinking, but because somewhere inside you, a simple conversation feels important, like it could go wrong, like it could change how someone sees you. And that is where the psychology begins. Point 1. High self-awareness mixed with fear of misinterpretation. People who overprepare are usually deeply self-aware. They notice tone. They notice timing. They notice facial expressions, pauses, silence. Their mind constantly asks one question: how will this be interpreted? This comes from strong emotional intelligence. But when emotional intelligence is combined with anxiety, it turns into hypervigilance. You are not just speaking, you are monitoring yourself while speaking. Psychology calls this heightened self-monitoring. You are aware of how you sound, how you look, how you might be judged. So before you speak, your brain tries to reduce risk. It prepares, it edits, it rehearses, because in your mind, saying the wrong thing feels worse than saying nothing. This is why small conversations feel big. Your brain treats them like social tests. Point 2. Past experiences taught you that words have consequences. Most people who overprepare did not start this way. They learned it. Maybe you once said something harmless that was misunderstood. Maybe you were criticized for your tone. Maybe you were laughed at, corrected, or made to feel small for expressing yourself. Your brain recorded that moment, and the brain has one main job: protect you from future pain. So now, before every conversation, it runs simulations. What if this sounds rude? What if they take it the wrong way? What if I explain it better? What if I soften it? What if I say less? This is called learned anticipation. Your nervous system expects emotional consequences. So preparation becomes a safety behavior, a way to stay in control, a way to avoid regret. The irony is, the more you prepare, the more pressure you feel, because now every conversation feels like it must be perfect. Point 3. A strong desire to be understood, not just heard. People who overprepare are not trying to impress. They are trying to be understood accurately. They care deeply about clarity. They hate being misread. They hate being misunderstood. This often comes from feeling unseen earlier in life, when your feelings were ignored, when your explanations were dismissed, when people jumped to conclusions about you. So now, you over-explain. You over-clarify. You add context before anyone asks, because in your mind, being misunderstood feels painful. It feels like being invisible again. Psychology links this to attachment patterns, especially anxious attachment and avoidant attachment mixed together. You want connection, but you fear misalignment, so you try to control the message. even in simple conversations. Point 4. Overthinking is actually a form of emotional control. Here's something most people miss. Overpreparing is not just anxiety, it is control. When you rehearse conversations, you are trying to control uncertainty. You are trying to predict outcomes. You are trying to avoid emotional discomfort. Your brain believes that if it thinks enough, it can prevent awkwardness, rejection, or conflict. This is connected to intolerance of uncertainty. Some people are comfortable with not knowing how things will go. Others are not. If uncertainty feels unsafe, your mind fills the gap with planning. That is why spontaneous conversations feel draining. There is no script, no rehearsal, no safety net, so your brain prepares one in advance. Point 5. High internal standards and fear of social mistakes. People who overprepare usually hold themselves to high internal standards. They want to be polite. They want to be kind. They want to be thoughtful. But those standards can quietly turn into pressure. A simple question becomes, what is the best way to say this? A casual message becomes, what if this sounds wrong? This is linked to perfectionism. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind where you feel responsible for how others feel. The kind where you believe mistakes reflect your character. So you prepare, because in your mind, preparation equals respect. But what you do not realize is that most conversations do not need perfection. They need presence. Point 6. Your brain confuses thinking with safety. The human brain loves patterns. When something works once, it repeats it. At some point, overpreparing probably helped you. It avoided conflict. It saved you embarrassment. It made you feel safer. So your brain learned a rule. Thinking more equals protection. But thinking is not the same as safety. It just feels like it. Psychology calls this cognitive overcontrol. Your thoughts try to manage emotions. The problem is, the more you think, the more anxious you become. Because there is always another possibility, another interpretation, another version of what you could say. So your mind never rests. Point 7. You are more comfortable in your head than in the moment. For many overpreparers, the mind feels safer than real-time interaction. In your head, you can pause. You can rewind. You can edit. In real life, there is no undo button. So you retreat inward. You simulate instead of experience. This is not weakness. It is a coping strategy, but it can slowly disconnect you from the present moment. You are there physically, but mentally, you are still preparing. And that is why conversations feel tiring. You are doing double work, thinking and interacting at the same time. Point 8. You fear being seen in the wrong light. At the core of overpreparing is one quiet fear. What if they see me differently after this? Not what if they hate me, but what if they misunderstand me? This is a fear of identity distortion. You want people to see the real you, not a careless version, not a rude version, not a weak version. So you guard your words. You curate your expression. But here is the truth. Most people are not analyzing you as deeply as you analyze yourself. They are busy with their own thoughts, their own worries, their own inner dialogue. The pressure you feel is mostly internal. Closing summary and takeaway. If you overprepare for simple conversations, it does not mean you are broken. It means you are thoughtful. It means you are sensitive. It means you care about impact. But it also means your mind is working overtime to protect you from something that may no longer be a threat. The goal is not to stop caring. The goal is to stop over-controlling. Because connection does not come from perfect words. It comes from real presence. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is the unedited version, the human version, the imperfect version. Start small. Send the message without rereading it 5 times. Speak without rehearsing every sentence. Let a conversation be what it is, not a performance, not a test, just a moment between 2 people. And if this video made you feel seen, understood, or relieved, you are not alone. Subscribe for more psychology that explains human behavior without judgment, because understanding yourself is the first step to finally feeling at ease in your own mind.